Beyond words, our souls collide in the rhythm where dreams reside. Beyond words, we touch the sky.
Welcome to the Beyond Words Deep Dive Sessions, an inspiring exploration of the book Beyond Words by Marcia and John.
Ever feel like you could tell what someone's thinking just by, looking at their eyes?
Yeah.
Today we're diving deep into some seriously cool research, actually, from the field of neuro-linguistic programming,
Okay.
NLP.
Right.
You shared an interest in how our eye movements, those eye-accessing cues,
Yeah.
can give us little glimpses into how people think
Yeah.
and retrieve information.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
not quite mind reading as
Right.
much as we might wish it were.
Right.
But it is you can think of it more like recognized patterns.
Okay.
Way back in the 1890s, actually, American psychologist William James, he suggested a link between our thoughts and our eye movements. And then in the 70s, NLP pioneers like Richard Bandler, they took that idea and ran with it. And they found some really interesting connections between the types of questions we ask and the directions someone's eyes move as they, access their memories or their imagination or even their internal dialogue. It's really fascinating.
So it's not about superpowers,
Right.
but it is about understanding how our brains are wired.
Exactly.
I like it. Okay, so how do our eye movements actually reflect what's going on up there?
Well, let's just try a little experiment.
Okay.
Think about the color of your front door.
Okay, got it.
Now hold that thought. Now imagine your dream house, on a beach somewhere. Same question. What do you see?
I'm picturing it.
You might have noticed that your eyes moved a little differently as you visualize those two things. And that's really the core concept behind eye accessing cues. Our eyes kind of tap into different parts of our brain, depending on the type of information we need to access.
I actually caught myself looking up and to the left when I thought about my front door. Like I was trying to picture it in my mind's eye.
Right.
But when you said beach house, my eyes went up and to the right.
Interesting.
Are those common patterns?
They are. For many people, looking up and to the left means they're accessing a visual memory, just like you did with your front door. And that upward and rightward glance often indicates someone is constructing a visual image, like your beach house.
So that's why I stare at the ceiling when I'm trying to remember something.
Right.
It all makes sense now.
Yeah.
But what about those times when someone looks like they're, rolling their eyes when they think? Is that part of this too?
It can be, but we do have to remember that everyone's brain is wired just a little bit differently.
Right.
Just like some people are left-handed,
Yeah.
some people's eye patterns might be reversed.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a general framework,
Right.
but we have to, allow for individual variation.
So it's like a starting point,
Exactly.
not an ironclad rule book.
Right.
Okay, I can work with that. This is fascinating. I'm ready to learn more about these patterns. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, it's like, learning a new language.
Right.
Once you start to recognize those patterns, you
Right.
can really gain a deeper understanding of
Right.
how people process information. So, shall we explore those other eye movement patterns?
Absolutely. Lay it on me.
Okay.
What else can we learn from?
Yeah.
Which way someone's eyes dart when we ask them a question?
Well, think about sound for a moment.
Okay.
If you're trying to remember, the chorus of your favorite song, your eyes might shift sideways towards your left ear.
Okay.
And that's a common indicator of someone accessing auditory memories.
Interesting. So if I see that sideways glance to the left,
Yeah.
I can guess they're really trying to hear that song in their head.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
the opposite is often true as well.
Okay.
If someone looks towards their right ear, it could mean that they're constructing a sound in their mind.
Oh, okay.
Maybe imagining a new melody or how something might sound,
Like picturing a sound, kind of.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, this is getting really interesting.
Right.
What about feelings? Do our eyes give us clues about those too?
They can.
Okay.
Looking down and to the left
Mm-hmm.
often suggests someone is accessing their inner dialogue
Okay.
or engaging with what we call kinesthetic sensations, which are feelings and emotions. So it's all connected.
So if I ask someone how they feel about something and they look down and to the left,
Yeah.
they might be having a little conversation with themselves about it,
Yes.
trying to put those feelings into words.
Precisely. Or they might be recalling a physical sensation associated with that emotion.
Okay.
Like, a tightness in their chest if they felt anxious,
Wow.
things like that. And what about when someone's eyes are like glued straight ahead, or they're looking down but not really at anything specific.
That's a great observation. We didn't get to that one yet.
Yeah.
Looking straight down, or even with their eyes unfocused, often indicates a deep internal focus.
Okay.
It's like their brain is doing a deep dive of its own.
So they've, like, checked out of the conversation and gone into their own head for a bit?
In a way, yes.
Okay.
It could mean they're concentrating deeply on what you're saying.
Right.
Or it might mean they're lost in their own thoughts trying to process something. It's all about context.
Got it.
Remember, these are just general patterns.
Right.
Not foolproof methods for, reading minds.
Right, right.
Well.
No X-ray vision for us, unfortunately.
Exactly.
But even with those, individual differences, this is still, like, incredibly helpful.
It is.
It's like, you've handed me a decoder ring
Right.
for human behavior.
Yes.
So, like, how do I actually use this knowledge in a conversation? Do I just, like, stare at people's eyeballs the whole time?
Right.
Because that seems a little intense.
Yeah, good point. You're not trying to, like, catch them doing something,
Right.
or analyze them in real time.
Okay.
It's more about just noticing patterns over time.
Okay.
Say you're explaining a complex idea to a coworker.
Right.
And they keep looking up and to the left as you're talking.
Yeah.
You might realize, oh, okay, they're a primarily visual thinker.
So instead of just, like, explaining things verbally,
Yeah.
I might, I don't know, like, sketch out a diagram or use more visual aid.
Exactly. You're speaking their language,
Mm.
literally and figuratively.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about recognizing someone's preferred representational system,
Right.
whether they lean towards visual, auditory, or kinesthetic learning,
Right.
and adapting your communication style accordingly.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
This is way cooler than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that time I was trying to describe this amazing concert I went to.
Emma, and your friend just wasn't getting it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was going on and on about the light show and
Yeah.
the stage setup, but it turned out my friend was way more into, like, the music itself.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
If you had been paying attention to their eye movements,
Yeah.
you might have noticed them glancing towards their left ear as you describe the music,
Yeah.
indicating they were trying to access that auditory memory of the concert.
And instead of picking up on that, I just kept, like, bombarding them with visual details. You're right. I could totally change my approach
Yeah,
and, like, connected with them on a deeper level.
exactly.
Okay, I am definitely going to be paying more attention to this from now on. This is, like, learning a superpower.
But speaking of powerful tools,
Right.
we haven't even gotten to that other term you mentioned, transderivational search, or TDS.
Ah, yes. TDS.
Yeah.
It might sound intimidating, but it's a fascinating concept
Okay.
that helps explain how our brains process information
Right.
and how we can use that understanding to communicate more effectively.
Well, don't leave me hanging. What exactly is transderivational search?
Okay, TDS, hit me. What is this transderivational search thing all about?
So imagine your brain is like a massive library, right?
Right.
Full of books and articles and even those old mixtapes you made in high school.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Mhm.
My brain is definitely a messy library, that's for sure.
Exactly. And every time you encounter a new piece of information or
Yeah.
someone asks you a question,
Yeah.
it's like you're giving your brain a search term. And that search process is TDS.
Okay,
Your brain is sifting through all those memories and experiences and bits of knowledge
right.
to try to make sense of what's going on.
So when you asked me to think about my living room earlier,
Right.
my brain was doing a TDS deep dive into its living room archives.
Precisely. And the type of question influences the type of search. Like if I had just said, describe your living room,
Mm-hmm.
it would have triggered a very broad search.
Right.
Your brain would have to scan everything.
Like using the library's clunky old computer catalog.
Yes,
It takes forever.
exactly.
Okay.
But remember how I asked you for 3 specific things that you noticed that
Yeah.
narrows the search?
Mm.
It's prompting your brain to zero in on the most prominent details.
It's like using those fancy online catalogs
Right.
where you can, like, filter by keyword
Exactly.
and publication date.
Yeah, way more efficient.
Yes.
And here's where it gets really interesting in terms of communication,
Okay.
open-ended questions.
Yeah.
They trigger a broader TDS, right?
Right.
It encourages deep thought and reflection. But
Mhm.
they can also be overwhelming.
Yeah, that's true.
And specific questions, they elicit more focused responses, which can be really useful when you need, quick information.
Yeah.
But they don't always lead to those aha moment.
So if I'm trying to have a meaningful conversation with someone,
Right.
I'm going to use a mix of both.
Exactly. Draw them out with those open-ended questions, but then get specific
Okay.
to really understand their perspective.
Got it.
Right. And this next part is, I think, crucial.
Right.
Think back to that section in Beyond Words about internal versus external focus.
Okay.
Understanding how our questions can trigger either an internal or external TDS, I think, is incredibly powerful.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Give me an example.
Okay, so let's say someone is telling you about like a frustrating experience they had. You could ask them, why do you think you reacted that way?
Yeah. I can already see how that might put someone on the defensive.
Right. It kind of forces them into a deep internal search.
Yeah.
Possibly like dredging up insecurities or past experiences. It can feel very exposing.
Yeah.
But what if instead you asked, what about that situation do you think made you feel that way?
It's a subtle difference, but such a different feeling.
Right.
Now, instead of like focusing on their reaction,
Right.
we're kind of exploring the external factors that contributed to it.
Precisely. It shifts the TDS from like an internal interrogation
Right.
to more of like an objective observation. It feels less like judgment and more like genuine curiosity.
And I can see how that can make someone feel, much more comfortable opening up. It's like you're saying, hey, I'm not here to psychoanalyze you. I just want to understand what happened.
Exactly. And that's such a key takeaway from all of this, isn't it? Whether it's eye accessing cues or understanding TDS,
Right.
it's about using this knowledge to build stronger connections,
Yeah.
not to, control or manipulate people.
Right.
It's about recognizing that everyone processes information differently
Yeah.
and meeting them where they are.
I love that. It's like we've been handed this incredible toolkit
Right.
for like understanding human behavior.
Yes.
But the most important tool is empathy.
Absolutely. Pay attention to those nonverbal cues.
Right.
Think about the types of questions you ask and how they might be landing on the other person.
Mhm.
And most importantly, be kind.
Well said. This deep dive has been absolutely fascinating. I feel like I've gained like a whole new level of understanding
Right.
about communication.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to like start putting these ideas into practice.
Me too. It's amazing how much we can learn from something as simple as a glance, right?
So true. And on that note, we'll wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive. A big thanks to you, our amazing expert, for sharing your insights with us. And to you, our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey into the fascinating world of nonverbal communication. Until next time, keep those conversations flowing and those minds curious.
Thank you for listening. Give us a like and share your comments. Order the book via the link in the comments. Stay tuned for more.
Beyond words, our souls collide in the rhythm where dreams reside. Beyond words, we touch the sky. In this moment, you